This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
To preempt your question, yes, I did write this. Welcome to Wretched Radio, how to handle scandal. Yeah, let's dive in, shall we? A number of scandals that are everywhere, which means it's a possibility we might be able to talk about it every time we talk about something that's going on that's negative inside of the church or with a professing believer who's within the realm of orthodoxy. Want to be very, very careful that we do not do discernment wrong. There are rules to this game of discernment. So many people, they just shoot all over the place. Sort of like that kid at the Chick-fil-A parking lot in Alpharetta, Georgia. Can't get over that. If you haven't seen that footage, I'm telling you, wow. Apparently 2 guys getting into an argument about something at a Chick-fil-A. Sacred ground. And the one guy gets into his truck. The other guy takes out his pistol and starts shooting at him as he's driving away, like he's in a video game or movie. Just saying. And that is the way a lot of discernment ministries act. The problem is the collateral damage that happens. Those bullets got to land someplace, and they typically hurt people. So let's remind ourselves, when do we get to talk about stuff like this? When should we? When shouldn't we? If it is a public story that is well disseminated, not just like somebody who's got a Facebook page and it's got 100 friends. That's not a wide dissemination of the story. It needs to be something where we can reasonably say, yeah, this is really general knowledge. This is publicly accessed by virtually everybody. That's criteria number 1. Criteria number 2, and this ties into number 1, will my talking about it make this more widespread than it needs to be? Will I be contributing to talking about the scandal in a negative way by just simply making it more known, upsetting more people? That's why you got to jump over that first hurdle. Third, are you going looking for trouble? Stop it. Don't go looking for churches and what's happening, or find a local church and make it a public deal. Shouldn't be doing that. Deal with it on your level and your community if you desire to. But we don't need to grab what some pastor is doing in Bozeman, Montana, and just make it news. That's not necessary. We're not scandal breakers and makers. That's up to CNN. Our job is to only talk about them if they're already widely disseminated. Furthermore, can I add something to it? Can I actually contribute to this conversation, or am I just doing the same old blah, 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 chewing it, spitting it out, venting? Then there's no reason to. Furthermore, number 5 are we up to? Whatever the order of rules are. Let's remember, we don't know all the details. We don't know everything from both sides. Want to be sensitive. If somebody's lying, that's an issue. If there's a scandal of some sort, somebody's probably not telling the truth. Not always in every scandal, but somebody's probably covering it. We don't know the whole story, so we need to be careful and limited in our response. Furthermore, I would suggest bring the Bible to the party. If not, probably, unless it's biblical wisdom being applied from a general source to a specific situation, it's probably not going to be very edifying. So let's jump in, shall we? Scandal number 1. This is from Willow Creek. This was probably the biggest church to push forward the seeker-sensitive movement, which means I'm not a fan of the seeker-sensitive movement. The pastor there, Bill Hybels, he's in the process of retiring. This is worthy of note. He's replacing himself with a male and female pastoring team, both pastors. Enough said. Bill Hybels now has been caught in the wake of the hashtag #MeToo business. I think they're doing something like hashtag #Church2. Christianity Today, for instance, which is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, disseminators of Christian information. They're talking about the story. He's being accused of being inappropriate. I don't think that anybody is suggesting that he's done anything physical, but that he was repeatedly inappropriate. So what do we do with this scandal? I say nothing. Nothing. What's there to say? She said, He said. She claims it. He's denying it. You and I can't figure it out, and I don't think we should, and I think we need to be really careful with this. I've seen this done in a hurtful kind of way. Specifically with Roy Moore, this is not an endorsement or a detraction of Roy Moore. I'm just using him as the example that there were people, specifically some high-profile Southern Baptists, saying, hey, it looks to me like these women are telling the truth. It looks to you? Did you call your brother in Christ, Roy, and ask him? Did you talk to his pastor, who's far closer to the situation than we are from afar? Otherwise, I don't think that we should be making those even types of well, it seems to me, seems pretty. What's the name? Stormy O. Daniels? Is that the name of the woman who's accused?
Stormy Daniels.
Whatever. She's claiming. I don't know. Neither do you. We'll find out. I saw there was another thing that came on the wake of this. Somebody accusing Barack Obama of having an affair with Barack Obama, or at least some sort of tryst and encounter. What do I do with that? Nothing. And by the way, furthermore, if you read any of the details, the fellow it's a man who's making the accusation, he's been arrested dozens of times, just a known liar. So am I going to believe that? Probably not. I'm just staying out of it. It's he said, she said, and we don't know who's guilty, who's innocent. It needs to be played out on the local level, and then when the details are reported, if they're reported, then we can have a conversation if we jump over those aforementioned hurdles. Which brings us to another scandal, which is the Sovereign Grace scandal. Sovereign Grace Churches, formerly Sovereign Grace Ministries, this is the one most closely associated with C.J. Mahaney, who is, he would call himself, I think, a Reformed charismatic. This was about 70-some churches in a bit of an association, and there were many allegations that there were some sexual escapades going on. The accusation is that it was reported, and they overlooked it. They didn't deal with it in the way that people felt was appropriate. Now, that happened a number of years ago. It is worth noting that that case was never brought to trial. Instead, it simply didn't meet the criteria, and so it was dismissed. It was never adjudicated, so we don't know anything. Now, it has been brought back into the spotlight because of Rachel Den Hollander, the woman who was the fellow who brought down the fellow Dr. Larry Nassar at Michigan, at University of Michigan, with his sexual deviance and wickedness with dozens. I think it was over 100 girls that were in the gymnastics program. Well, she brought up in an interview with Christianity Today, which is what I'm looking at right now, again, widely disseminated. Christianity Today broke that story because she said, well, why do we go after that guy in the public sphere, but we aren't going after churches in the church sphere, where we should have a greater interest? Specifically, Sovereign Grace. Now, what do we know about this? Accusations? It is a messy mess. That's what it's a mess. Even from this article, lengthy article from Mark Golly, he said it's just really hard to know what went on with this case because we got stuff all over the place. So Rachel is calling for an independent investigation. Here's the headline: we need an independent investigation of Sovereign Grace churches. And I thought this was well done from Mark. We call for a fresh and thorough independent investigation, not because we believe those accused are guilty. We are as bewildered as anyone and simply don't have enough information to make a confident judgment on the matter. We see, however, that Sovereign Grace, the churches, current and former, and C.J. Mahaney by association are under a cloud of suspicion. Let's remove the cloud. Remove the cloud. If, in fact, they're guiltless, then yay. That's great. If they aren't innocent, well, then yay for the victims, and it's going to be dealt with. Furthermore, writes Golly, this will set an example for other churches where too often these sexual allegations are covered up. Police should be involved. A criminal act took place. Is it spiritual? Of course it is. But it's also criminal. So they take themselves outside of the realm of the church initially, and they put themselves in the government realm, whose job it is to protect people from people like that. And so churches aren't doing it as much as they should. Maybe it's getting better. If Sovereign Grace would let them figure out who's going to be doing the independent investigation. There's some tussling over that, but let's do it and set an example, writes Mark, and we will then know whether there's innocence or guilt, and it can be dealt with. And I say, I think he nailed it. We call for the investigation not because we believe anybody's guilty or innocent. What do we do with it? We wait. Third scandal. Frank Page, he's the president and chief executive officer of the Southern Baptist Convention Executive Committee. He oversees everything. He just resigned because of a, quote, morally inappropriate relationship in the recent past. Quote, as a result of a personal failing, I've embarrassed my family, my Lord, myself, and the kingdom. So he's retiring. Calling it a personal indiscretion. He's 65 years old, and he's taken a fall. Take heed. Take heed, sir. Take heed, madam. Run the race to the finish line. Don't stumble at the end. I wish he had used more biblical language. What do we do with Frank? Pray for his family, pray for whoever this was, and wait for any details if we even need to be involved at all. This is Wretched Radio. Shout out to our gospel partners. It is your ongoing monthly support that allows us to do Wretched Radio every single day and provide the broadcast, the entire program, for free to anybody on iTunes, Android, or at our website. Thank you for being a gospel partner. If you enjoy or benefit from Wretched Radio, would you please consider joining those partners so that we can continue to preach the gospel? Simply visit wretched.org.